I invited you today to have a conversation regarding the art of discipline, which is this big word that we hear in martial arts training all the time. But I think that it's important to dive in and really talk about the meaning of what that is and how that is represented in all different areas in your life. Because in essence, that discipline is kind of like the core. Everything just gravitates towards that.
I'd like to focus in on my profession and the professionals that I work around, because I think that might be an interesting way to think about it. We work with engineers and different consultants, and the sort of lingo is discipline, is the architectural discipline, the mechanical discipline, and so it's sort of ingrained, and you know, taking martial arts lessons with you sort of helps me see that okay, this is not a finite thing. It's a practice, and it's a practice that that involves repetition and acknowledging that a profession is not just, okay, I did it, but instead I have to keep doing it as a discipline. To me, is those are professions or ways of spending your time that are it's time well spent, because you're growing, you have the opportunity to grow and get better and to create change in whatever either field or the environment that you're operating in. That takes a certain level of resolve that you have to build that. I don't think you're born with that. I think there may be some people that have an inclination toward, okay, I need to keep doing this, but it's something you have to sort of force yourself to do.
For me, martial arts does precisely that. You know, it kind of opens up this awareness for us to at least understand that there are so many things out there that we don't understand. And that openness is the mindset for the martial training. When we train at the dojo, we talk about the 8 principles of martial fusion. So we start with breath, you know, it's the foundation of your entire system. Once you bring your attention to your breathing, naturally, you're going to want to bring your system now into alignment. And once you have that alignment, now the centering happens, because you are rooting yourself, you're feeling the ground, you're absorbing energy from the ground and transferring it through your system. And then from that centering, now that you have that energy, naturally you start moving out, and this is what we call the 4th principle of coordination, which is learning how to operate your entire body as one unit, meaning that you are not wasting any energy, because all the pieces of the puzzle are moving in perfect synchronicity for the machine to run smoothly. And once you got a machine that is running smoothly, and you continue to operate it in that way over and over, kind of like a mantra, then spontaneously that repetition, which is that practice that you were talking about, that repetition turns into fluidity, because there is no effort, because you have done it over and over and over, to the point now that your body starts relaxing, and your body now knows what it needs to do in order to keep repeating the pattern indefinitely. And that is the fluidity now. You become this state where, you know, you're not trying to push the river. You know, you're going with the current. And as we move forward in those principles and we start hitting the martial arts like mindset, then we say, okay, the martial arts starts within, but eventually this warrior mindset has to be used into the world. And these were the challenges, you know, the conflict appears, and this is the principle of adaptability that we have talked a lot about that. And adaptability means that you are willing to change according to whatever you are encountering, because you have this attitude of non-resistance, but there is also intelligence in there, because you know that the most flowing way is the strongest way, just like water. So this adaptability, which is the mental feel of the martial attitude, gets you into this realization that everything, us, everyone, everything is in constant movement, and everything is interacting with everything at all times. What it means that things are constantly shifting. And when those opposites, get now out of proportion, we lose that balance that allows us to be in that state of fluidity and adaptability. The fact that we have now the capability of recognizing what that point is and moving along now with that point, balance is a moving target, is what simply is going to rectify that balance between those opposite elements. And this is where awareness grows. This awareness have to be the reason why we continue to do things in the way that we are doing them. Meaning, there is something out there that we don't know what it is, but we became aware that it is there. Now, your perspective and your reality from where you are has been changed forever, because at least of the understanding or the knowledge that there is something in there. And training with daily practice, following the principles, is a guideline for us to have a more effective method to be able to get there and continue to expand on whatever that is.
So I've practiced martial arts for a large portion of my life, starting when I was maybe 11 years old. I started doing Taekwondo, practicing with a gentleman named Master Fred McNabb, and he probably was the first real example of what discipline is for me, right up front and open. He treated his practice in the way that you describe, where he essentially embodied that discipline, and everything that he did, whether it was informal conversations or, I don't know, putting things away in the dojo, it all reflected in that sort of martiality and that discipline.
In order for anything to materialize, it's basically gonna go into these 4 stages. We have vision, which is the creation of the idea. There is something in you got ignited, and you said, this is what I want to do. That's your vision. We have planning, which is basically now preparing the ground for that vision to come to life. Then we have execution itself, which is action. That's when it's happening. We are now in the moment, and that is the real test of our vision, to see what reality produces. And for that, we need to be in the moment, and we have to be adaptable, because we need to rearrange our plans in order to continue to produce that vision. And when everything was said and done, then we got the 4th stage, which is outcome. So that particular vision was fulfilled, that particular project was finished, you came to an end, and now you are going to revise, reevaluate. You're going to take an assessment of how everything went from beginning to end. What worked, what didn't work, what can I improve? And from that point on outcome, that becomes the platform to start again or to continue. Because after you have completed something, then you can say to yourself, you know what? This was a good experiment, I'm done, but I'm ready to move on into something else. Or now I have a few better ideas in how to improve this so I can start another process and do it even better. So those 4 stages of vision, planning, action, outcome are the art of self-discipline that are going to be reflecting the 8 martial fusion principles as we go along.
So throughout my life, practicing first Taekwondo in grade school, then in college, and then on my own, I practiced on my own, and then now with you, practicing for over 3 years with you, and it's always been this underlying current in my life that has sort of allowed me to find the energy and the direction to persevere. The different principles that you describe within Zenbu Dojo, ultimately it's you're unlocking a door, and once that door, you have the ability to open that door and see beyond. It's almost like you are creating a bridge to creativity, a bridge to, as you described, to see something that is not currently here, to see a path forward. So the martial arts is a catalyst for a life that what you're trying to do is refine yourself, almost as a sculptor does with a stone. It starts with a block, and you slowly whittle away, and then the details come, and eventually there's the object. So what you're trying to do is go get to the essentials of your being and yourself, and that is kind of what allows you to then I believe it allows me to express myself creatively, to become, and I've been put in situations and positions now that have been a result of that ability to think beyond survival or the mundane. Nature is a good teacher when it comes to minimalism and finding the essence. It's constantly shedding itself. It's constantly being reborn. And most of nature that you look at, there's nothing there that doesn't have a purpose. Nothing. Even the beautiful feathers of a peacock or the changing colors of a lizard, although it's quite beautiful, it all has a purpose. So nature can be quite a powerful teacher when it comes to finding that. And I think martial arts, in a way, is a human manifestation of that process of elimination to get to that central core.
Beautifully said, man.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
One maybe can think of discipline as a foreign act. It's an unnatural act when you compare it to things in nature.
Mm-hmm.
There's for an animal that goes hunting, they have to do it. It's just they do it. It's the thing they do. When a human disciplines themselves to do something that it doesn't necessarily want to do, it's putting themselves in a situation where it's uncomfortable and there's an unnatural amount of effort required to do that. So that in itself is kind of an interesting thing.
Sure. Sure, and I also would look at it as this search for discipline or understanding that there is this knowledge that is transformational for the human. It basically makes you a better hunter. So in survival of the fittest, so discipline is also a characteristic that develop in humans for making certain ones more capable, and then being the ones who end up like leading the pack, because they have this quality that the other ones don't have. It's just a characteristic.
Do you think that humans have an innate drive to go beyond survival? Because you described there's sort of an action. You'd say you're going to do this thing. And then it takes discipline to do this thing. Do all the things that we pursue ultimately, is the goal survival?
We are wired that way. Anything that is alive is wired that way. Yeah? You have to survive as much as you can, and perhaps reproduce so the species can continue. And then from there, we want to avoid pain, and we want to gravitate towards things that are sources of energy and keep us alive. I think this is where self-discipline comes in as one of those methods to, again, make the hunter more capable, more effective. But according to your question, I see that we are all functioning in this mechanical setting, right? That the present biological machine, it's configured to operate. But then along the way, maybe, to some sparks of a different dimension start arriving into this basic natural program. And these sparks are showing you that there is something beyond just living, existing, and dying. And these experiences that the Japanese calls satori, they're little moments of enlightenment. But let's not get too philosophical and grandiose with the idea of enlightenment. Because it means enlightenment that there is light that has come within you. You have seen the light. Now I understand. I didn't see it before. Now I see it. That's why there is light. So when we have these little moments of satori, where there is a little light that enters us, they start becoming more frequent. And they sort of start laying out a track. And this is what I understand as the path.
You asked me how discipline sort of, how do I integrate that into my life? To me, it's the little things, it's the little details of how you operate throughout the day. It's a combination of all those together that, for me, is what allows me to have that foundation and consistency. So if it's washing the dishes, making sure that you do it to its entirety, folding the clothes, maybe there's a crease, maybe you take the crease out, and when you know that when you've put all your clothes away, it's neat in there, and when you leave it, there's not this unfinished business that's floating around in your mind, because that becomes the clog to the intent or to the signal. So the more you can, to me, those moments of recognition that I could go the easy way, but I'm not going to do that, because I already know that if I do that, it's going to it's going to build a clog in my mind, and that's going to float throughout the day.
And you said something that is the connector between what we're talking about and rituals like the tea ceremony in Japan. When you see the tea ceremony and you look at the level of subtlety, connection, and awareness of what is happening in the room, is this atmosphere that when you come in contact with, then you are transported into that level of mental operation. And you have that connection with this pursuit for self-perfection, whatever it is that you set yourself to do. And you become attention to detail. And that is the way of Zen. Zen practice is expansion of awareness.
In those moments, you're zooming into absolute awareness. You're not an autopilot. And when you operate in that way, you are living, as they say, in the moment and in the now, and that exposes opportunities, and it makes your life rich.
This self-organization, because this is what it is. It's discipline comes from disciple, the words disciple. And disciple is the one who is searching to organize itself. Discipline is keeping that order within. And martial arts training is keeping the hunter in the absolute possible best condition to operate in the world as long as we're here.
Absolutely.